They called her a gold digger, a poor girl chasing a billionaire's dream. But what they didn't know was that she was the storm they were all sleeping on. And on the day of her wedding, when the truth finally surfaced, everything, from love to fortune, burned to the ground. This is not just a story about betrayal. It's about pride, power, and a bride who turned humiliation into her greatest weapon. This is the story of the woman who canceled a billion-dollar deal in the middle of her own wedding. The guests whispered before the ceremony even began. "Can you believe she's marrying him? She used to be a waitress at his company's cafeteria. She's after the money, obviously." Sophia stood before the mirror, her white dress glowing softly under the golden light of the bridal suite. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from rage she refused to show. The makeup artist adjusted her veil and tried to hide the small scar under her chin, a remnant of the life she had before she met Daniel Whitmore, the heir of the Whitmore corporate empire. Daniel was everything the tabloids adored: handsome, rich, and untouchable. His family's company controlled billions in international investments, from tech to oil. And Sophia, well, she was the outsider, the nobody who had somehow captured the most powerful bachelor in the country. The engagement had been a spectacle. Cameras flashing, reporters screaming, the Whitmore matriarch smiling tightly beside her son. Yet behind every smile there was venom. Behind every compliment there was an insult disguised as courtesy. "Welcome to the family," Daniel's mother, Eleanor Whitmore, had said that day, her tone cold as marble. "I do hope you're ready for the expectations that come with our name." Sophia remembered every word, every smirk, every glance that measured her like a fragile, replaceable toy. She had grown up with nothing. Her parents were factory workers who died in an accident when she was 16. She'd built her life from scratch, working 3 jobs just to survive. And yet, she'd never felt as small as she did among the Whitmores. But today, something was different. Because Sophia wasn't just marrying into money, she was stepping into a room filled with people who thought she was beneath them, and she was about to show them how wrong they were. As the music began and she walked down the aisle, whispers rippled through the crowd. Eleanor's lips curled into a cold smile. Daniel stood waiting, flawless in his black tuxedo, but his eyes distant. There was no love there, not anymore. And somewhere in the front row, a man with gray hair and a knowing smirk watched Sophia carefully. His name was Richard Clark, the CEO of Whitmore's biggest rival. He wasn't there to celebrate. He was there to witness, because Sophia was about to destroy not only a marriage, but a billion-dollar partnership that would shake the business world forever. But what could a poor girl possibly do against an empire? They were all about to find out. When the vows began, Sophia smiled. Not because she was happy, but because her plan was already in motion. The ceremony had begun. White roses framed the altar. The orchestra played softly. And yet the air inside that golden hall was thick, suffocating, as if everyone knew something that Sophia didn't. Daniel stood tall, reciting his vows with the same corporate tone he used in board meetings. Every word felt rehearsed, polished, hollow. "I promise to protect you, to honor you, to build a future together." Sophia repeated her lines, her voice calm but distant. The audience heard love, she heard lies. Because she already knew. 2 nights before the wedding, Sophia had found a file left open on Daniel's laptop, a confidential merger agreement. It wasn't just a business deal. It was a billion-dollar partnership between Whitmore Industries and the Clark Corporation. The same company that had once destroyed her father's small manufacturing business. The merger was set to be sealed publicly on the same day as their wedding. A symbolic gesture, 2 unions in one, as Daniel's father had put it. The bride and groom joining hearts, the corporations joining power. Except Sophia wasn't meant to benefit from either. Hidden deep in the contract, under pages of legal jargon, she found her own name, mentioned only once. A clause stating that upon marriage, Sophia would sign over all potential spousal rights to Whitmore assets, ensuring complete protection of the family's wealth in case of divorce. In other words, she was their puppet, a public decoration, a pawn in a billion-dollar chess game. And Daniel, The man she loved was part of it. Sophia remembered the moment she confronted him. It was 2 a.m. in their penthouse. He'd been drunk, his tie loose, his eyes glassy. "You were going to marry me and cut me out of everything?" she asked, voice trembling. Daniel sighed, rubbing his forehead. "It's not like that, Sophia. My parents insisted on it. You know how business works." "Business," she whispered. "You mean our marriage is a business move?" "You wouldn't understand," he said sharply. "You should be grateful. After this, you'll never have to work again." That was the night something inside her broke. And something darker woke up. From that moment, Sophia stopped being the naive girl in love. She became silent, observant, calculating, because if the Whitmores saw her as a pawn, she would learn how to play their game and win. On the day of the wedding, as the priest spoke, Sophia's eyes scanned the crowd again. The press, the executives, the partners, all gathered for a double celebration that would make headlines worldwide. Next to Daniel's mother sat a thick leather folder embossed with gold, the merger agreement. Sophia had one job to do before she said, "I do." When the priest turned to her and asked, "Do you, Sophia Harris, take Daniel Whitmore to be your lawfully wedded husband?" She paused. The silence stretched. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Eleanor's fake smile twitched. Sophia's lips parted. But instead of a yes, she said something no one expected. "Before I answer," she began softly, "I'd like to say something." The priest hesitated. Daniel frowned. But the cameras were rolling, and she had their full attention. "I know what everyone here thinks of me," Sophia said, her voice steady. "That I'm the poor girl who caught a billionaire. That I'm here for the money. But the truth is, I've seen what money can do. I've seen how it destroys love, integrity, and even family. And today, I realized something." She turned toward Daniel. "This wedding isn't about love. It's about power." A murmur rippled through the hall. Daniel stepped forward. "Sophia, stop. This isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," she cut in. Her voice grew colder. "Because right now, as we stand here, your father's company is finalizing a merger worth billions. And I wonder how many of these guests know that this wedding, my wedding, was designed to make it look like the perfect fairy tale for investors." The audience gasped. Eleanor's face turned pale. Daniel's expression hardened into panic. Sophia reached behind the podium and pulled out a small flash drive. She held it up. "Everything I found on your laptop, Daniel. The emails, the contracts, the clauses. It's all here. And it's already been sent to every major journalist outside these doors." The hall erupted in chaos. Cameras flashed, guests shouted. The orchestra stopped playing mid-note. Daniel grabbed her wrist, his voice trembling. "What did you do?" "What you taught me," she whispered. "Business." And then she turned to the priest, calm, almost serene. "I do not take this man as my husband." With that, she dropped the bouquet, turned her back on the altar, and walked down the aisle, alone, as the Whitmore empire began to crumble behind her. But what Sophia didn't know yet was that her revenge had only just begun. Because someone else, someone even more dangerous, had been watching her every move. In the corner of the hall, Richard Clark smiled. He didn't lose a deal that day. He gained a weapon. The storm didn't come from the sky that night. It was born inside the Whitmore mansion. Hours had passed since the wedding fell apart. Outside, cameras flashed, reporters screamed, headlines formed in real time. Inside, silence cut sharper than any noise. Arthur Whitmore was on the phone, shouting at his lawyers, veins bulging in his neck. The empire he had built over decades was collapsing, one headline at a time. Stocks were crashing, investors were retreating. And the Whitmore name, once synonymous with prestige, was now poison. A glass shattered on the marble floor. "That girl destroyed everything," he roared. Eleanor sat on the couch, her diamond necklace trembling around her throat. "You said she was naive," she whispered, "that she'd never dare to fight back." Daniel said nothing. He stood frozen, staring at nothing. Her voice still echoed in his head, calm and unshaken. "I do not take this man as my husband." He had thought he was marrying a harmless girl. But Sophia wasn't harmless anymore. She was a wound that refused to heal, and everyone around her was bleeding. That same night, Sophia walked through the city streets, still wearing her wedding dress. The hem was soaked in rain and dirt, heavy around her ankles. People stared, whispered, but she didn't care. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, messages, breaking news alerts. The poor bride who exposed a billion-dollar scam. Whitmore wedding ends in chaos. The woman who destroyed a dynasty. For the first time, her name wasn't followed by pity. It was followed by fear. When she reached her apartment, the door was slightly open. A glass of wine sat untouched on the counter. Something felt wrong. "Who's there?" she asked quietly. From the shadows, a calm voice replied. "You caused quite a storm today, Miss Harris." She turned sharply. A tall man in a dark suit stepped into the dim light. "Richard Clark, you did in one day what I couldn't do in 10 years, he said, his tone almost admiring. "You cost the Whitmores billions." "I didn't do it for you," Sophia answered coldly. "That's what makes you interesting," he smiled. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a black business card. Clark Holdings, executive consultant. She looked at it, expression unreadable. "Why would I work for another billionaire? I've had enough of them." "Because you're not like them," Richard said. "You're better. And now that you've declared war on the Whitmores, you'll need allies. You'll need power." He turned to leave, pausing at the door. "Think about it. Revenge is just the beginning. The next step is control." The door closed softly. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. Sophia stood alone, the card still in her hand. The rain echoed against the windows like slow applause. Something inside her whispered that this wasn't freedom anymore. This was the start of something darker. Revenge had given her wings, but power would demand her soul. Days passed. The media wouldn't stop. The Whitmores lost contracts, credibility, and allies. Daniel disappeared from the spotlight. And Sophia, she became a ghost haunting the headlines. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. A string of confidential files began to leak to the press. Offshore accounts, bribes, political blackmail. Each revelation struck like a bullet. No one knew who was behind it. But the digital trail led to one name, Sophia Harris. The woman they once called poor had become the nightmare of the rich. Somewhere across the city, Richard Clark watched the news from his office. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, smiled faintly, and whispered, "Welcome to the game, Sophia." Because in this game, there were no winners, only survivors. And Sophia didn't know it yet. But someone had already placed a price on her head. By the time Sophia realized what she'd unleashed, it was already too late. Someone had just put a price on her head. The morning after the headlines burned across every screen, Sophia woke up to silence. The city outside her window moved on as if nothing had happened, but she knew better. Somewhere, someone was cleaning up the mess she'd made and preparing to make her pay for it. She hadn't slept. The TV still played the same footage on repeat. Her standing at the altar, the moment she said no, the chaos that followed. Her face had become a symbol. To some, she was a hero. To others, a traitor. She turned off the screen, but her reflection lingered in the dark glass. Tired eyes, makeup faded. The faint outline of the veil still etched in her memory. There was no turning back now. Her phone buzzed. A private number. A text appeared. "Meet me, 3 p.m., Clark Tower, top floor." She stared at it for a moment before typing back a single word. "Why?" The reply came seconds later. "Because your enemies are already moving." The Clark Tower stood like a shadow against the skyline, cold glass reflecting the storm clouds above. Sophia arrived dressed in black, no trace of the bride she once was. Her heels clicked softly across the marble floor as the elevator carried her upward. The numbers blinked slowly toward the top. When the doors opened, Richard Clark was waiting. He stood before a massive window overlooking the city, calm, polished, dangerous. "Quite the view, isn't it?" he said without turning. "Depends who's looking," Sophia replied. "Some people only see what they plan to destroy." He smiled faintly. "You think you know how this works now, don't you? Revenge, power, exposure. It's intoxicating, isn't it? I didn't do this for power, she said. I did it because they deserved it. Richard finally turned to face her. Everyone deserves something, Sophia. You wanted justice, they wanted control. I want balance. The difference between us is that I know how to get it. He motioned for her to sit. On the table were documents, photographs, and reports, all stamped with the Whitmore logo. You've started something, he continued. The Whitmores are desperate. Their lawyers are digging into your past, trying to find anything to destroy you. But if you work with me, I can protect you. Protect me? She scoffed. Or use me? Both, he admitted. But you already knew that. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing. What do you really want, Richard? He smiled. Information, access. The Whitmores still have accounts hidden offshore. If I can get to them, I can finish what you started. And what do I get in return? Freedom, he said softly. Real freedom. The kind you can buy. She left the building with the papers in her hand, but unease twisting in her gut. Something didn't add up. Richard Clark had power. Too much of it. And the way he spoke about balance sounded more like domination. That night, Sophia went to a cafe downtown, one of the few places where no one recognized her. She opened the documents and began to read through the data Richard had given her. But then she noticed something strange. At the bottom of one page in the fine print was a signature she recognized, hers. Her heart stopped. It was dated that morning. According to the document, Sophia Harris had already signed authorization to transfer the Whitmore data to Clark Holdings. He had forged her name. She felt the world tilt around her. He wasn't protecting her. He was using her name, her scandal, to take control of everything she exposed. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. You shouldn't have read that. Sophia froze. She looked around. Through the cafe's window, across the street, a black car was parked, engine running. The message came again. Leave the documents. Come quietly. Her pulse quickened. She slid the papers into her bag and walked calmly toward the back exit. Rain had begun to fall outside, thunder rolling through the city like a warning. She turned into the alley behind the cafe and froze. Two men were waiting, dark suits, earpieces. Miss Harris, one said. Mr. Clark would like a word. Sophia didn't answer. Instead, she swung her bag and ran. Her heels splashed through puddles, the men shouting behind her. The sound of footsteps echoed off the wet concrete. She turned a corner, ducked into a side street, heart hammering. For the first time since the wedding, she felt real fear. She reached a dead end, a tall fence slick with rain. The footsteps grew louder, then headlights cut through the darkness. A car door opened. A voice she hadn't heard in days spoke through the noise. Sophia, Daniel said, get in, now. For a moment she froze. Daniel looked older, broken. His once perfect suit was wrinkled and damp. Everything in her screamed not to trust him. But the men were closing in. She got in. The car sped through the city streets, tires hissing on the asphalt. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. Why are you helping me? Daniel's eyes stayed on the road. Because Clark isn't who you think he is. He's been using you to destroy us. And when you're no longer useful, he'll destroy you too. Sophia stared out the window, watching the lights blur. So what are you saying? I'm saying we have a common enemy now, Daniel said. And if we don't stop him, he'll own everything, including you. The car drove on through the rain, disappearing into the night. By the time Sophia realized what she had stepped into, it was no longer revenge. It was war. And she was caught between two monsters, both powerful enough to crush her. Both convinced they could control her. But neither of them understood one thing. Sophia Harris was done being controlled. She thought she'd escaped the wedding. But the real ceremony was yet to come, and this time the price would be blood. Rain. It hadn't stopped since the night Sophia ran from Clark's men. The city seemed to bleed water and light, gray skies and black puddles, neon signs flickering like dying hearts. She watched from the car window as Daniel drove, his face tense, his eyes shadowed by guilt. He hadn't spoken since picking her up. And she didn't ask. She didn't trust him. Not yet. But trust was a luxury she no longer needed. She needed leverage. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. There's something you need to see. He parked in front of an abandoned industrial complex, a Whitmore factory, shut down after a mysterious fire. Inside, the air was thick with secrets, files on metal tables, documents scattered, screens glowing with encrypted data. This, Daniel said quietly, is what Clark's been building. Every move you made, every leak, part of his plan. He wanted you to destroy us publicly so he could move in silently and take everything. The companies, the accounts, even your name. He handed her a file, photos of her secretly taken, apartment, routes, contacts. Her stomach turned. You spied on me? Not me, he said. Him. Clark had been watching her from the beginning. Every step, every outburst, every defiance. She wasn't his weapon, she was his scapegoat. Sophia breathed in. Fear burned away, replaced by something colder. If Clark wants bait, she said slowly, I'll be the trap. Daniel frowned. What do you mean? We let him think he's won, leak one final piece, too big to resist. He'll come himself. Daniel hesitated. And then what? Then, Sophia whispered, we end this. The next night, another storm. A message spread through Clark's network, a file labeled Project Vow. Rumor said it was the last piece of the Whitmore fortune, billions in hidden digital assets. Clark took the bait. He arrived at midnight, rain dripping from his coat, expression unreadable. Sophia, he said, voice echoing, I knew you'd come around. You don't trust Daniel, do you? Trust? She smiled faintly. No, but I trust greed. It's predictable. Give me the drive, he said, stepping closer, and I'll make you disappear. New name, new life. You've proven you're dangerous. You could be useful. Sophia studied him. You think I did all this for a new name? The lights flickered. Locks clicked. Doors sealed shut. On the upper level, Daniel appeared, a control device in hand. Cameras lined the walls, recording. What is this? Clark's calm cracked. The truth, Sophia said. You wanted to play God. Use me to destroy him, own everything. But you forgot one thing. And what's that? He hissed. I learned fast. She tossed a flash drive between them. There's your prize. But before you touch it, it's uploading. Clark's eyes widened. Uploading to where? Everywhere. He lunged. Daniel stepped between them. Progress bars bloomed on the screens. Too late, Sophia said softly. Every document, every bribe, every deal, yours and theirs, is live. Every secret, every crime, every lie. Clark snarled. You've destroyed yourself. Maybe, Sophia said, walking past him. But I won't die pretending to be clean. By morning, the world had changed again. The Whitmore dynasty was finished. Clark Holdings collapsed overnight. Agencies seized assets, froze accounts, issued warrants. 2 empires erased in a single upload. Sophia sat alone on a park bench at dawn, wrapped in a gray coat, eyes distant. No company, no money, no safety. But she had her freedom. And for the first time, that felt like enough. She breathed the cold morning air as people passed. No recognition. The poor bride, the scandal, the ghost, gone. She was just Sophia again. And that was all she ever wanted to be. Then a soft voice behind her. You really think it's over? She turned. Daniel stood there, raincoat over his arm, eyes different. It's over for them, she said. Not for us. He nodded slowly. What happens now? Sophia looked toward the sunrise. Now we start over. On my terms. She rose and walked away, footsteps fading into the waking city. Somewhere in a dark corner of a corporate server, a single file remained hidden. The last vow encrypted. Waiting. Because stories like Sophia's never really end. They just change players. They called her poor. They called her desperate. They thought they could own her. But she was never theirs to control. Because true power doesn't come from money. It comes from the moment you stop needing anyone's permission to burn the world down.